Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul. Hopefully having an amazing day. Finally, Sony have announced and confirmed many of the details for the PS5 Pro. Unfortunately, the event was only around 9 minutes in length, and a lot of the technical nuances that I'm sure many of you who are watching this channel really were interested in simply were not mentioned. But we do have a good understanding as to the performance targets of the machine. There were some demonstrations of what games are actually going to look like on the console. And we also have some kind of indications that many of the rumors are actually confirmed at this point, again thanks to this presentation. Now I will say that I do expect a much deeper dive to have occurred from Sony over the next couple of weeks, maybe in the form of some type of interview or something like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what additional details come out, because at the very beginning Sony begins by essentially stating some of the technologies that made the PS5 base model consoles so important. So for example, he mentions there's 8 Zen 2 cores. He of course discusses RDNA 2, the ray tracing capabilities, the SSD, and so on and so forth. However, he doesn't mention the CPU pretty much at all in the PS5 Pro. He doesn't mention graphics IPs or any of that stuff. But before we get too much into the technical detail, again, I will put out another video probably over the next, well, maybe several days, depending when Sony goes deeper into this stuff, and hopefully he does. And obviously I'll be on camera and do a lot more stuff. But I wanted to get this video up real quick because these are just my initial thoughts and impressions, and obviously because extra details could be emerging over the next several days. This is, possibly going to change. With that said, the first thing I'll say is ow. My anus clenched when I saw the pricing. Let's just rip the band-aid off, shall we? $700 US or Great British Pounds. And this is a console that's going to be available on the 7th of November 2024. Now, I'm sure many of you did not exactly expect this thing to cost $2.50 and come with a pack of chewing gum. With that said, this is a lot of money. However, there were many indicators that this console was going to be very expensive. Many of my sources were telling me that they were expecting this thing to be, let's just say it was going to hurt your wallet. Unfortunately, they didn't have an exact price. They said that the last thing they'd heard is Sony was still internally deciding, but they were personally expecting it to be quite eye-watering. But obviously, eye-watering is not really a price point. It's like, if something's like $400, let's just say it for an example, and then you see something else $500, it's like, ow, you feel that. But 700 is a lot of money. However, again, there are indicators, like we saw the PS5 become more expensive in Japan right now, thanks to numerous factors, not least of which, of course, the Japanese yen. But it's also the fact that even if you look at the base model PS5, and as well as the Xbox for that matter, the bill of materials are just not really reducing thanks to tons of factors. TSMC, the manufacturers who produce the actual APUs for Sony, they are not exactly dropping their prices for the 6nm chip that's inside the base model PS5. We have RAM that is just out as well, storage costs. Everything is just really expensive thanks to things like, the machine learning boom that's happening. So, again, if you take things into a wider context, it's not surprising that this thing is so expensive. Now, with this said, Sony are basically marketing this machine as a system that's going to look much better than the regular PS5 and is going to offer higher frame rates, and it's going to be able to achieve this through a couple of different ways. Essentially, you're going to get the best of both fidelity as well as performance modes in base that you see in games running on the base model console, for example, Demon Souls and so on, but you're probably going to get even more visual effects. So let's go through a few of the things that were specifically confirmed. One is that the GPU is larger, quote unquote. We're looking at an additional 67% compute units, which pretty much confirms the specifications that myself as well as others leaked online. They also confirmed PSSR, which is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Now, this thing is actually very intriguing indeed. It basically is in it looks kind of like NVIDIA's DLSS, albeit obviously running on, well, Sony's hardware, and obviously they've tweaked and optimized it for their own games and, you know, their own system. At this point, there were videos that were showing this off. I've not exactly done pixel counting to really get a good understanding of how it's going to compare to DLSS. And with that said, also you're looking at YouTube videos, which doesn't exactly help improve the quality. It's going to be very interesting to see how games that are on the PC that are running DLSS and also available on the PS5 Pro compare if you have a one-to-one comparison. So by which I mean you're running the games at the same kind of output resolution, and you're also running the games at the same quality settings, just to see what the actual visual quality is of PSSR. Eyeballing it, it does honestly look very good indeed. It's going to be very interesting to see how this technology evolves over time. Again, it's quite early at the moment. We don't have a complete understanding of the technology. We have kind of a rough understanding, but certainly not all of the technical nuance. So the larger GPU, the AI-driven upscaling, Sony also mentions, of course, there is advanced ray tracing. The rumors is that it's using some type of RDNA 4-ish IP for the ray tracing capabilities, but like I said, there was no real details as to, well, what type of GPU architecture is inside the machine. Again, the rumors are that it's based on RDNA 3.5, which is essentially the iGPU which you find in like Strix Point, for example, on AMD APUs, albeit customized and has some elements of RDNA 4, but unfortunately that was not confirmed in this event. So we're pretty much guessing the CPU clock frequencies, and for that matter the GPU clock frequencies, were not referenced. So again, hopefully over the next several days there is an interview and we have a lot more detail on exactly what the machine is capable of and whether the rumors are accurate. They also specifically mention, of course, that the ray tracing performance is 2 to 3x times faster than the base model console, thanks to major improvements. Now, this does seem to go along with the leaks with the technical documents, which was 2 to 4x. However, a 4x improvement, again, going by what was there in the technical documents, that was like extreme circumstances. So the average did seem to be a 2 to 3x. So to be fair to Mark Cerny as well as the team here, they are not being, they're being pretty honest with the performance claims. As for the RAM, obviously one of the big elephants in the room here is, while you have a crap ton of additional compute units, there's also the fact you need to, well, give data to those units. And this is where the RAM seems to have been improved by 28%. Now, to my understanding, again, based on the leaks that we've seen, and I've gone over these in a much more kind of exhaustive detail in a video which is, I can't remember the exact title, I'll try to remember to link it in the description, but it was something like why UE5 is going to be much better on the PS5 Pro. But from what we understand, again, based on the technical documents, the caches on the GPU, especially for the L1 cache, for example, have been significantly reworked. Again, it seems to be leveraging the RDNA 3.5 kind of layout. And this basically means that because the caches are larger, 2x actually over the base model system, then you, in turn, just get you get way more performance because you can hold way more data in the caches. This is going to improve things like ray tracing, and other caches have also been improved, which are going to increase, which is going to improve things like texturing and so on and so on. I don't want to go too into this stuff here because, again, until Sony have officially confirmed it, while this information seems to have made its way from developer portals, and I've heard through the grapevine that it is true, it's not confirmed. So just because something's leaked, it doesn't mean, even if it is from a technical document, something could have changed before, you know, for the retail machine. So again, Sony also provides lots of demonstrations of games. Spider-Man 2 was one that they really showed off. There was Hogwarts Legacy, God, I can't speak. Demon's Souls, Last of Us, Ratchet and Clank, can't remember if I said that one, several other games, and frankly, they look gorgeous. They really do. So I think here's my personal opinion on this. You're going to be getting a lot of arguments online over the next several, I'm sure several months, hell, probably a couple of years, of whether the PS5 Pro is worth it, quote unquote. And I'll probably do, again, a deeper video on this when more details are officially confirmed and we have a much better understanding of the machine and its capabilities. With that said, my personal takeaway from this is the following. If you are a mainstay PlayStation user and you can afford it, which is the key, right? I'm not telling you guys, well, you know what, you're going to have to miss rent to afford this thing because it's bloody expensive. So if you can afford it, PlayStation is your main primary way to play games, and you have a TV which is capable of running it. If you've got like a 720p TV from like 2000 and I don't know when 720p was standard, like 2007 or 8 or whatever, then sure, you're probably not going to exactly get the most out of PS5 Pro. With that said, if you have a modern display, like 120 Hz or better, 4K, HDR, all of that other crap with VRR, and you've got the cash, I can definitely see a very good argument. If you're someone who is primarily a PC gamer, you just kind of play the odd PS5 game here or there, then obviously it's a very different question. This is going to be one of those consoles that's never going to achieve the same sales figures as the base model. If memory serves, the PS4 Pro was something like 15 to 20% of the consoles sold for the PS4. So it's going to be very interesting because obviously this console is, from memory anyway, the gap is much larger. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this one, guys. Like, I think it's still very cool. I really want more technical information because, quite frankly, I'm a nerd and it just would make me happy. The machine lived up, roughly speaking, to my expectations. I want more information, however. There is a lot of additional things I would like to know. For example, what if a game is very CPU heavy? So a lot of the games that were shown off in these demos, i.e. for example, Ratchet and Clank, yes, they do, of course, push the CPU, but the GPU does a crap ton of work. And again, you could say that for several other games that were being shown off here. So if a game is much more CPU bound, how does that work? Are they going to be incorporating some type of frame generation technologies in the future? Blah, blah, blah. There's just, I guess, it's kind of like, I kind of feel like photoshopping the Riddler hat on Mark Cerny at this point. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the market takes this. With that said, guys, again, sorry for the shorter video and being slightly rambly. It's why I wasn't on camera for this one, because there's so much bloody footage. And yeah, with that said, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Bye for now.